page or our Hot Country Hits Facebook page, and we're also streaming this on our YouTube channel as well. So if you have an opportunity, check it out. It's with cameras and audio and all that good stuff. Radio has expanded, and he is in the studio with us. So did you ever think that, hey, I'm coming down to the radio station and going to be on camera, right? Yeah.
Did I think that today?
Yeah, well, in general.
Oh, in general.
Years ago.
Oh, years ago. No. Because I'm doing this for 6 years. So yeah, I'd be on the camera. I was like, okay, now I got to make sure I look good.
Absolutely. and you do. It's
oh,
fine.
Thank you. I'll pay you later.
Thanks. I appreciate $50, $100. No, it's good. Erin Doan from Erin Doan State Farm Insurance, live with us here in the studio, and going to be talking about winter driving conditions out there. And obviously, on a day like today, we might not be thinking about it in general because, well, we're in the middle of this warm up and so forth. But just like with Monday's weather that came in, it'll come in and surprise us even more than what we expect. And we'll see those icy conditions on the roadways and sidewalks and everywhere in between. And so we want to be ready for winter before winter comes along, right? That's a fair assessment, right?
Yeah, I think so. And I think a lot of people are on it. I've heard a lot of people getting snow tires and getting their cars ready or whatever, and the salt's out and the shovel's out because we've had a couple tastes of winter. But this kind of back and forth is why I think black ice conversation is going to be really good.
Yeah, absolutely. And so let's talk about what black ice is in general. It's kind of a mystery to some people. Is it just a slick spot there? But dive into it for us a little bit when you talk to your customers.
Well, I can't talk completely like a meteorologist or somebody who paves roads all the time and is an engineer. But just in terms of my perception is, the water it's kind of funny. It seems pretty obvious, but the water getting in between, the pores and the cracks in the road and then the surface that it's just really hard to see. And most times when you're dealing with black ice, it's kind of in those in-between times where you really don't expect it. Like if you're driving in the middle of the night and the temperature's falling, you're going to be more cautious with that water. It's like even driving in this morning, I noticed, when it's in the 20s after a meltdown, so we still have snow coming on the road, melting. So that's the thing is that you can't, you don't know, you don't see it. It doesn't look wet. And that's the difference is it doesn't look wet. It melts. And then as the night goes through, we're dropping into the 20s. And I always say the 20s are the beginning of when, unfortunately, things happen, collisions happen, and you go off the roadway and you had no idea it was going to happen.
Yeah, and you see that when you're talking to those customers that are coming in or calling you and saying, "Hey, I was just in an accident," and we do see that. Black ice forms, and I'll put my meteorologist hat on.
Yeah, please, I appreciate that. The technical part.
Yeah, exactly. But especially shaded areas when you have trees that have grown over that roadway, and you've got that shaded area. You have, as you mentioned, that drop in temps, and especially that drastic drop in temps that black ice can form and can bubble up a little bit there. And I say it this way. We have the Mom FM Hummer out there, and it does great in snow, but nothing is great necessarily in ice. And obviously, if you have winter tires, that helps.
Yeah.
But ice in general is ice is ice, right? It's gonna be slick.
Yeah, I think it's one thing to drive on snow. I think if anybody that gets northern Michigan, for that matter, anything in Michigan, we can drive on snow. We're careful. We understand kind of what we can do, starting and stopping. Ice changes everything. Especially when you're not ready for it at all. So maybe you're not as defensive because you're like, wow, the roads look really clear right now and there's no snow. It doesn't look like there's any ice. I'm fine. And I think that's where we relax a little bit, maybe too much in those places. And that's where the black ice just really surprises us. So just be aware of those times when it's melting and then we can't really see it. The road looks dry. We went out for a walk last night, Chris, and we had both really good flashlights, and there were a couple places as we were walking, like it looked fine. It didn't look like there was any black ice, and man, I almost bit it big time. Man, I was just, like, we're on a flat piece of ground. We're not going up and down the hills, which we already had done, and I almost bit it. Partly because I relaxed a little bit. I wasn't taking, quite the strides, and then all of a sudden I relaxed, and so boom, it happened. I almost fell.
Yeah, and got to be careful. And so this morning we want to make sure that listeners and viewers just up to date. Just that reminder always is important. And if people say, well, I haven't seen much black ice or anything like that. We live next to Lake Michigan, and with that moisture in the air, there's more of a chance for us to see black ice here in West Michigan as we're closer to the lake and other lakes than more inland. So we're going to see it from time to time, and we want to make sure that we are aware of those surroundings, right?
Yeah, and even driving in, I noticed. So I come in from the Scottville area, and driving in, the temperature's starting to warm up, right? Yep. So the temperature getting closer to the lake's still. As we in West Michigan know, it's warmer for a lot of the season, and so it warms up. So the further east you go, the colder it is. Well, it's that change in temperature especially, too, that when we're making our commute in the morning, we just got to realize coming in from out county, or doesn't matter if you're in Manistee County, Oceana County, Lake County, coming in to go to work, you got to be really careful coming through that place, because that change in temperature is really when it gets really slick and you're just not expecting it.
We're talking with Erin Doan from Erin Doan State Farm Insurance this morning. So let's put the insurance calculation in there. We're driving down the road. We hit a patch of black ice. We're in an accident. Let's say, let's take both options or both scenarios. Single car accident versus multi-car accident. Take us through the impact in regards to insurance.
Yeah, I think the first thing that you want to realize is safety for, in terms of how is everybody, health and welfare. So carefully, do the best you can to get off the roadway if possible. Car's not movable, completely understandable, but carefully check to see how everybody in your car is, get everybody out of the vehicle, because especially if there's oncoming vehicles coming, if you're able to. If not, stay in the vehicle. I think this is one of those things where, I need help. I need to wait. So I think it's that place of just where's everybody at. If you're able to safely get out of the car, you're okay. See where the other people are doing in the other vehicles if it is multiple. So in terms of insurance, once you're past that, you want to kind of see where, the police will come in. They're going to do a police report. You want to make sure you get all the information possible. I even like to just write down the information for the other parties involved. And you write your name, your phone number, your insurance company, and just trade the information, based on the facts of what happened. The police officer is going to put that on the police report and determine who was more hazardous. So from an insurance standpoint, it's really nice when you can just share that information. That's a great start of the process. And then you can get into, okay, what do we do, in terms of the vehicle, where do we take it, and we'll help you through that process. Just give our office a call and we're going to walk you through and help you. I have 4 full-time people to really take the time and make sure you understand kind of where you're going with the claim, and then help you to file the claim with State Farm.
When we talk about Michigan being a no-fault state, right? That's the term that we like to throw out all the time, right? If you're in an accident based on black ice, is your rate still going to go up? Could there be points on your license and such? Is that all factors that take place?
It can. I think it's one of the hardest things for consumers and people get frustrated with insurance. But once you know what the intent of the law is that the no fault still is in effect even after the change and reformation of the law in 2020, is that your insurance pays for your damages. So that's if you have health insurance on your auto. And if you have, collision or comprehensive, it's your insurance company that's going to pay for yours. So now, there's always somebody responsible, Chris. So if somebody is 51% or more responsible for the accident, there's an at-fault situation.
Okay.
That's where it's hard, right? So if the other party's at fault, black ice, they hit you, they're responsible. So their car insurance company is going to pay for their medical, if they have it. And again, I repeat that because before 2020, everybody was going to be covered no matter what with some form of medical on their car insurance. Okay. Now you can opt out, if you have Medicare. So relationship to like on your own, Chris, because I think that's where you're heading. You hit black ice, go off the roadway, hit a guardrail, hit a tree, hit a ravine. Mm-hmm. That's an at-fault accident. That's a really frustrating situation because that damage, if you claim it, is your responsibility. Now, you have insurance. The powerful thing about having insurance is you have insurance. You know, that sounds like, well, what the heck is he saying? Well, thank God you have the coverage to get your car fixed. Most people have, if they have full coverage, like with collision, they have a $500 deductible. If you go off the roadway, hit a tree, guardrail, ravine, you've got $3, $5, $10, $20,000 plus in damage to your vehicle. You have insurance. Yes, it was your responsibility. You're at fault. It is going to affect your future premium, but you have coverage. The insurance company, like State Farm, is going to write that check.
Yeah, very good. Okay, so we have a listener that just commented on our Facebook page, and she says last night we were talking about black ice, and she says, black ice day or night is bad, obviously, and she hit a cow last night, and she says watch out for black ice and black cows, and so let's talk about that. Okay. In her scenario, she hit black ice and hit livestock, which, when we talk about it, maybe sounds a little bit like there's a chuckle there, but no, it's serious.
It's very serious. And I don't mean to like chuckle in terms of like, hopefully she wasn't hurt.
Right. But she used some LOLs in her comment.
Okay, good,
so, yeah.
Good.
But I'm glad, and I hope that she's safe. But in her scenario, what happens? What's this look like?
I mean, it's kind of like, as we know in West Michigan, it's like hitting a deer, right? So you've probably heard this. Brace for impact. Hold the steering wheel tight. Do not go off the roadway. Hit the deer. Okay? Hit the deer. Because once you go off the roadway, there's a lot of things that don't move. Or move much. Telephone poles, electric poles don't move. Trees don't move. Ravines don't move. The deer can move. And I get it. It's dangerous. Super scary to hit a deer straight up and or a cow. Yeah. So it's comprehensive. I mean, so partly hit the deer because it's comprehensive. It's not an at-fault accident. Now, for life or death, the cow is right in the middle of the road. You have a super hard thing to do to make that decision. I would very, very quickly, carefully just jam on those brakes and try to do whatever you can to not go off the roadway. Clip the cow. Try not to hit that cow straight on.
Is the owner of the cow responsible at all? I know we're going deep into a scenario here.
We're down a rabbit hole here.
But what happens?
Yeah, so I mean, there can be. Okay. I mean, there can be for sure. So, your responsibility is to keep your animals, domestic like that on your property. Have I seen a big lawsuit from a cow, a horse, a dog? Not crossed my desk in 20 years, but that doesn't mean it doesn't happen, and it hasn't happened even in our area with other people. So I think there's some responsibility that the insurance company that has to pay for that finds out whose cow it is and could come after, if nothing else, that farm ranch policy or that homeowner's policy of that farmer or that person that had the cow.
But in most cases, because when we go back just a couple of minutes in regards to Michigan being a no-fault state, she doesn't really have to even interact with that particular farmer, right? Because her insurance is going to take care of everything, right?
Yeah, I think you can maintain an arm's length distance in terms of that. There may be a little bit about, okay, where were you? If the insurance company usually can do the logistics of doing the investigation of whose cow was it, starting down that path. Obviously, if there's no other farms in that area that have cows and that you could help the insurance company, by all means, hey, it happens. But we need to investigate. And when things happen, you just need to be honest, clear. You're not trying to hurt the farmer and their business or anything like that. But you need to kind of let them know what happened and let them do their job and investigate. But if you have information, it's definitely going to help the process, getting through it. But yes, the agency like mine, we'll help you do our best to get some of that information for you on your behalf when we can, and help you take care of it when you're working with claims, and be the local contact that you have, that we're trying to do everything we can to be a good neighbor.
And I know, and by the way, Tia, thanks for the question or the comment there. And if you don't mind, I mean, we're talking about black ice this morning, and this was a perfect scenario of something happened just last night. And it wasn't just a couple of days ago when the ice storm or the snow and ice came in. It was a few days after the warm up, or as it's warming up. So we see those slick spots that are out there. If you don't mind, in regards to this particular incident, which I'm sure some of the listeners are thinking about, what about the cow? What about the owner of the cow? Not necessarily liable wise, but what's on their policy? What do they have to help protect them, as they now have maybe a cow that's lost, or dead?
Yeah, I mean, they could go down the path of loss of income. There's definitely policies where if that is an income-producing cow for your business, then for sure there's a potential there to file that claim in that regards of that lost animal, whether that's the price of the meat or the producing.
But what's on their policy? What would they have added?
A lot of times that would be loss of use.
Okay.
In terms of loss of income, those are having that income asset on your policy, so that would be under their typically their farm ranch policy.
Okay.
Or if they were more of a hobby farmer, or they just had cows, that could be just under their homeowners, and there's going to be some coverage there.
And speaking of that, you can handle livestock policies, farmers, rancher policies. That can be done right there at Erin Doan State Farm Insurance, right?
Yes, we do have farm ranch policies. In fact, interesting enough, State Farm is the largest insurer in Nebraska and Iowa, where the huge, massive ranches are in terms of farming. And so that's our bread and butter. But yeah, we have, I don't think, dozen farm ranch policies on our books. So, we're definitely familiar with it, competitive. Love to help, local farm rancher get a quote this time of year and see where we are competitively.
All right, Tia's giving us a little bit more updates, so we appreciate her. Let's for the listeners, because I think she says the cow walked away, and I still don't know whose cow it is, so that's good. All right, and everyone was safe. The cow was in the road. The car, not so good, she said.
Oh boy,
it stopped working, and thank goodness for insurance. Plus, it just filled up with the gas tank as well. So, but Tia, we feel bad for you, and hopefully everything works out. But that's where she then makes that phone call to her insurance agent, right?
Yeah, and we'll help walk you through that. So that's what we think locally is really important to do, and I think that differentiates State Farm. State Farm is just wired where this is super important for us to help you recover in this place. So I have a couple staff people that really work really hard to follow up on auto claims, and especially where there's a situation where you're trying to get through the process and understand it. Just be that local voice and assistance. And then from a homeowners and business standpoint, that's me. Like, I think it's really important to help people recover when their domain, their castle, the place where they live and want to be back into, can help recover. So working really closely with the contractors. I had one in my office yesterday. So that whole same thing of just helping people recover when things like this happen and you hit a cow, we're there for you. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
That's right. I appreciate you. And that's the great thing about the listeners that are listening and viewing as well. We get a chance to interact with them. And in Tia's moment, obviously, she's got to deal with now getting her car repaired and restored. And hopefully that answered some of her questions that she might have. But again, giving the agent a call wherever she has her insurance through, obviously an important thing. Before we wrap up this morning with Erin Doan from Erin Doan State Farm Insurance, you've seen across the board, because we had a question come in earlier today about rates going up at every insurance company across the board, and you get a chance to track this, right? There's been some bumps in coverage costs, right?
Yeah, it's a frustrating thing. So for the listeners others who are just like, when are they going to talk about this topic? This is not an elephant in the room. It is legitimate, and it's really hard right now going into Christmas. Things were super tight. So what's happening? Well, what we're seeing is, and I know you've heard it, the cost of the parts and the labor in the collision shops is literally through the roof. And if you think about these cars newer, a lot of people did upgrade or get a newer car since 2020. And so those cars have way more sensors, computer modules, cameras, airbags, and just literally very, very expensive to repair. And so those costs are coming in at an astronomical rate in what we call severity. So the average claim is way up over the last 3 or 4 years in terms of what we're paying out across the country. Doesn't matter what model you have. And then also the frequency, the number of claims. So if you think about COVID 2020, 2021, rates actually went down. When people were driving less, there were less claims. And most insurance companies, and State Farm was a leader in that, we gave back $2 billion directly in written checks as a mutual company back to everybody that had car insurance with State Farm. And we also gave a discount of 11% in 2020. Okay. Well, we are now back above, Chris, the 2019 rates, and it's tough. It's almost at the wrong time because of all the other inflation that people have experienced over the past year and a half, and now Christmas. And so we empathize. We know it's a frustrating, challenging time to pay these darn insurance bills. We get it. But talking to other friends of mine in the business that own other local independent agencies, all of their carriers are dealing in the same exact thing. All the premiums are going up. Most companies have had 2 or 3 price increases in the past year.
Wow. Yeah.
Every single insurance company. So this is what is affecting us all as consumers. And we're doing our best to help people understand and to help people do the best they can to pay. And we're just doing our best. And we're updating coverage, Chris. There's times where we're looking at, well, what are your deductibles, and helping you through that. Maybe let's look at your medical and your car insurance. Maybe there's a less expensive way that won't hurt you by making an adjustment there. So we're looking at each policy very carefully. Give us a chance to take a look at it, and we'll help you the best we can.
And it makes it makes sense, and that's where you have that conversation with your agent, your that interaction, and maybe there's ways to save. Maybe it is, if you're in an accident, maybe it's a different kind of car that you want to look at too, and have that option. Well, I like that you had a chance to address that, and I think those conversations, people are always concerned about, and it helps to have that conversation. So
absolutely.
Erin Doan from Erin Doan State Farm Insurance. Where can we find you, by the way?
Yes, so I'm a State Farm agent that's on US 10 highway in Ludington. We're half a mile east of Meyer, so if you're familiar with US 10, that's where we're located. We're open today, Chris, but we are just through the holiday season. We're going to be closed tomorrow, Friday, and we're also going to be closed, of course, on Monday on Christmas. So you can also call us 231-757-3115. And I just want to say thank you to everyone listening and watching. And Chris, wish you all a very Merry Christmas.
All right. Merry Christmas to you as well.
Thank you.
Thanks, Erin, for being here and being a part of the team here. And we look forward to many more conversations coming up in the new year there. And just like those topics, people are able to, listeners, viewers, able to interact with us. So if you have questions for Erin to look at in the future, we'd love to be able to chat about that. So, Erin, thanks for coming in. We're talking about black ice, winter driving, hitting cows or other animals, but hopefully these tips and hints certainly help us. And I will tell you that you brought up the idea that if a deer does dart in front of you or any other animal, by repeating that message that don't swerve, just
go
hit
off
it.
The roadway.
Yep, exactly. Don't go. Correct. That it's better for you from an insurance standpoint and from a safety standpoint too. So we appreciate you coming in.
Thank you.
It is 8:55 on 102.7 Mom FM and Hot Country.